What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talk Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. MLB playoffs continuing. The division series are winding down. The Detroit Tigers force a Game 5 against the Seattle Mariners. They win 9-3 in Game 4. Series is tied at 2 games apiece. The series shifts back to Seattle for a winner-go-home Game 5. But Detroit will go back to what will most likely be the two-time reigning Cy Young Award winner very soon, Torque Skubal, and Seattle will start George Kirby, who I would argue was proud of their ace. They have such good rotation, it's hard to really say, but he's an elite pitcher. Definitely in his own right. Should be a great game. Game 5. That'll be tomorrow. The Cubs force a Game 4. They defeat the Brewers 4-3 in Game 3. Good game. Cubs are up 4-1 for a bunch of that game. Brewers make it 4-3, but Cubs are able to hang on and win 4-3 as they force a Game 4 as they survive another day. The Toronto Blue Jays defeat the New York Yankees 5-2 in Game 4 at Yankee Stadium. They defeat the Yankees and knock them out of the playoffs. Blue Jays advance to their first American League Championship Series in 10 years since 2015 when they lost to Kansas City. The first playoff series win in 10 years. I'm very happy for Toronto. They've kind of been starving for a winner for a long time. They've had a couple of decent years here or there since the 15 year, but weren't able to really put it all together, especially in the playoffs. A lot of early playoff heartbreaks. Obviously, a really tough year last year. A lot of fans lost a lot of confidence in this manager, in this regime, in this front office, but they got it done this year. Really good season, 94 wins. We're able to eke out the Yankees for the American League East Championship, and then beat them in 4 games in the American League Division Series. Did a bullpen game, but it worked out, and I'm surprised they started Louis Varland. I thought they would start Eric Lauer. He was a starter earlier in the season. He's like their length guy. Maybe you get at least 3 or 4 innings out of him, and then you kind of piece together from there. When they started Varland, they pieced together the whole time. Eric Lauer didn't come in with the 5th inning. He only went like an inning in the 3rd. And kudos to the Blue Jays for doing a good job in that bullpen game. Got some highlights to show you guys. This game started out in the 1st inning, starting with men on base. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. comes through once again.
Guerrero shoots it down the right field line, and that's a fair ball. It'll be an RBI single for Vladdy. Springer in.
Pick it for Vladdy, RBI single. He had an incredible series. He's killed his whole career. I think going into the series, or maybe like Game 2 or 3, for his career against the Yankees, he was hitting 300, like 25 home runs, something crazy. He's always killed them. In this series, he was 9 for 17. It's like a 560 batting average, like 563. 3 homers, 9 runs batted in, for 1,600 OPS. Just absolutely insanely good series for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That put the Blue Jays up 1-0, but the Yankees would strike back in the 3rd inning.
Chance that he would be available. This one sent to right field. Santander will turn. It's gone. McMahon takes Fluharty deep, and it's a 1-1 tie.
Ryan McMahon, solo jack, ties the game, but Toronto would retake the lead a little bit later on a sacrifice fly from George Springer.
Lines this one to left center field. Grisham will make the catch, but here comes Clement. He'll tag and score in the sac fly by Springer.
That makes it 2-1. After a really bad error by Jazz Chisholm, made it 1st and 3rd with 1 out in the 7th inning. Aaron Boone would pull, well, actually with nobody out, would pull Cam Schlittler of 88 pitches with to Devin Williams. The striking out George Springer, Nathan Lucas came through.
And there it is. Clement will come in to score. Jimenez behind him. And it's a huge 2-run single for Nathan Lucas to give the Blue Jays a 3-run lead.
It was a fantastic piece of hitting by Nathan Lucas. I don't think people realize how tough it is to get on top of a fastball that high in the zone. Like it was a strike technically coming in that fast. He was able to do it. and just hit it where it was pitched. Great piece of hitting by Nathan Lucas, proving his manager right for putting him in the starting lineup for Game 4. I believe this is the first game he actually started in the series. Though he did play him for defense in the bat here or there throughout the series. So great hit there, big hit for him there. And Jeff Hoffman, who came in for the last 4 outs, closes it out with this strikeout.
The 1-2 pitch. Got him! Jeff Hoffman strikes out Cody Bellinger, and the Blue Jays have done it. They have knocked off the New York Yankees.
Hoffman strikes out Cody Bellinger. Blue Jays win 5-2. They advance to the American League Championship Series. Before we move on to the Phillies-Dodgers game, I got a bone to pick with a lot of you Yankees fans. All y'all did was yap about the Mets and how Juan Soto got sent home early. He didn't make the playoffs, and the Mets suck, and the Mets don't make the playoffs. And all that is true. The Mets did not make the playoffs. They suck this year. But you guys were more happy that the Mets missed the playoffs than your own team was being in the playoffs. Like, the whole talk from Yankee fans all over the place going to Game 1 against Boston last week was, oh, the Mets lost. How about you worry about your own damn team? It's about to play a best-of-3 playoff series. How about you worry about that? Okay? Run your mouth now, the little stupid idiots at Barstool. Shut up, okay? Just so ridiculous. And some of these Yankee fans were accusing the Blue Jays of cheating. Really? That's the softest, most insecure bullshit thing I have ever seen in my entire life. How pathetic are your lives? That's what we have to stoop to, okay? Maybe because we're just better. They were. They were better than you all goddamn year. Their announcer, Buck Martinez, was right. You're not a good team, okay? They are 1,000% correct, okay? Get the hell out of here with your pathetic cheating allegations, okay? Shut up. It's like, oh, the Blue Jays, they're a lot better at home than on the road. Well, first of all, they just beat you on the road to send your asses home. Second of all, yes, they scored 23 runs in 2 games, at home, but they also scored, 14 more on the road, okay? It's always easier hitting at home than it's on the road. That's just how it works. The crowd behind you, especially in baseball, when it's outdoors, the atmosphere like that, especially in Ryder Center, you're playing in the dome. Yankee Stadium now obviously is not a dome. Well, it's not a dome, but they have a retractable roof at Ryder Center in Toronto. Like, come on, that's the stupidest crap I've ever heard. Bunch of whine, pathetic babies, Yankee fans are. Okay, shut up and go home. And just like Vlad Jr. said,
The Yankees lose.
the Yankees lose. Goodbye, Yankees. Goodbye. See you later. But to finish up this segment, the Phillies defeat the Dodgers 8-2 in Game 3. I was a little worried. I thought they were going to get swept. They started Aaron Nola, which was a surprise. He did not have a good season. And then when Trader Suarez after him, Suarez overall pitches well. Phillies bats come alive. They win 8-2. They survive on their day. They force a Game 4, just like the Cubs did as well. So Mariners Tigers got Game 5 tomorrow. Got 2 Game 4s today, obviously. And the Blue Jays, they will face the winner of the Mariners Tigers in the American League Championship Series. So we're going to close this thing out with NFL power rankings. But before we get to that, we had 2 deals. Well, one was an extension in the NHL. The Vegas Golden Knights extend Jack Eichel on an 8-year, $108 million extension, $13.5 million a year. Huge deal for Eichel. We talked for a day or 2 now. They were closing on an 8-year deal, and they get it done. Eichel, one of the premier players in the league, career last year, 28 goals and 94 points. He had injuries the last bunch of years, but found stayed healthy out last year for the most part. Great year. He's always been a great player, obviously. Very high draft, I think, second overall by Buffalo back in 2016. Eventually was traded to Vegas a bunch of years ago. 8-year deal for a guy who's 29. It's not the most ideal thing in the world, but Vegas, obviously, you won a cup 2 years ago. You're still a really good team, and you locked in one of your best players long term. So congrats to Jack Eichel on getting his bag. And then we have trade in the NFL. The Jaguars traded Tyson Campbell and the 7th-round pick to the Cleveland Browns for Greg Newsome and the 6th-round pick. Very surprising trade. Tyson Campbell, young corner for the Jags, who only last summer, prior to last season starting, got a pretty big 4-year contract extension. And just a little over a year, about a year and a half after that deal, he's traded to the Browns for Greg Newsome. Both are very solid young corners. Throughout their careers, I would say Campbell's probably been a little bit better. Newsome's had a little better year so far. It's been a little bit more of a highly rated corner. Newsome's been pretty solid. Campbell thus far has not been great, but very surprising the Jackson would give up on Campbell this quickly. Granted, the reason they're 4-1 is not quite because of our defense. It's been more because of the play calling, the coaching, and the offense for the most part. Maybe they want to shake up our defense. Maybe they think that will improve their defense. And if this team can get some more stops, this could be a relatively dangerous team. Relatively dangerous team, especially if Trevor Lawrence can clean up his turnovers. They're playing good football right now. That division doesn't look so good. The one thing we thought, you counted to at least, win maybe 10 games is Houston. They haven't looked good. Their only 2 wins came against a godful Titans team and a depleted Ravens team. And then the other 3 games, they looked horrible. They're at 2-3. So Jacksonville makes a bit of a shakeup. Jags and Browns swap corners. But with that, let's go into my NFL power rankings. Heading into week 6. Here we go. At number 32, I have the New York Jets. They're just so bad. They are utterly horrible. Like Fields, he hasn't played horrible. The stats do look very good. They haven't told the whole story. Yes, he's thrown for a bunch of yards. He has thrown an interception, but he's also had lost a couple of fumbles. He holds them to the ball way too long back there. Just like isn't great. He's very young. You have a rookie right tackle, a second-year left tackle. Well, a third or fourth-year guard and Tittman, who should be playing center. You have Josh Myers playing center because of the injury to Vera Tucker. So you have a young line, just holds onto the ball for too long. Gary Wilson's your only legit weapon you have. I like the tie in Mason Taylor, but he's only played a few games. Rest of the receiving core is god awful besides Gary Wilson. Defensively, they're absolutely terrible. Maybe the worst in football. They cannot give a stop. It doesn't make any sense. I get Quincy Williams, one of the league's best linebackers, an all-pro, is hurt right now. I get Jermaine Johnson, who's a very good young pass rusher who was hurt last year. Like we're getting him back. He hasn't played the last couple of games. And look, that secondary outside of assault is not good. Brandon Stevens freaking sucks. He's so bad. He's absolutely terrible. But just man, they should be a lot better than that. The Jets suck, and this coaching staff is horrible. Glenn, defensive guy, this team can't get a stop. They're undisciplined as can be. Mental errors left and right. The play calling with the offensive coordinator has kind of been okay. Been a little too conservative at time. And Steve Wilkes, he's that guy. That guy's a bum. I don't blame him completely. I don't like the job he's done, but I blame Aaron Glenn a lot more. But the curse franchise and this team just completely sucks. At 31, I have the Tennessee Titans. This team is just utterly horrible. They stole a game against Arizona last week, but this team is still really bad. Cam Moore's looked like a typical rookie. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. He's done some things really well. There are some things that, look like they're heading in the right direction. He's made some mistakes. That's what you expect out of a rookie. The rest of that team is just so bad. The running game isn't great. Tony Pollard hasn't been great, but here the offensive line is absolutely terrible. It's been bad for a few years now. Defensively, they're not great, but they're not horrible. Just meh. I don't think that's a well-coached team by any means. Brian Cameron does not think he's a good head coach. They're in a tough bind because you don't like firing a head coach 1 year into a rookie quarterback's tenure. But they don't have a choice. That guy is pathetic. Obviously, they've had a lot of games he took over last year that haven't even been competitive in, and he looks lost at the end in these pressers, coming after reporters. It's a really bad look. So Titans, they are just dreadful. They're at 31. At 30, I have the Miami Dolphins. That team is so pathetically bad. Tua's just so overrated. He's not very good. He just isn't. He's at best an average starter in a loaded offense. That's his absolute ceiling. Now Tyreek Hill's obviously out for the year. And defensively, they are a joke. They are a complete mess on defense. They are horrible. Mike McDaniel, how that guy still has a job. when he first took over, people thought he was the next coming of Don Shula. The guy is a joke. His pressers are just embarrassing at this point. They need a new regime desperately. The Dolphins absolutely suck. At 29, I have the New Orleans Saints. They're horrible as we thought they were going to be. They just don't have the roster. They probably have the worst overall roster in the league. Thankfully, Olave has stayed mostly healthy thus far this season. Their defense is about as bad as we thought it was going to be. Spencer Rattler hasn't played bad. Not a ton of turnovers. He's played a little better than I thought he would be. But still, the guy's not pushing with it down the field. He has no arm. They're at 1-4. I mean, the only winless team is the Jets. They're 1-4. They're about as bad as you thought they'd be, but at least most of these games they're competitive. And a lot of people thought they might go 0-17. At least they picked up a win. 28 is the New York Giants. Nice win against the Chargers 2 weeks ago, but now it's forgotten. You have a rookie quarterback in Dart. We'll see what he does the rest of the year. I like Scotto a lot, but no one to throw to with Malik Neighbors out for the year. Yeah, but Tyon Theo Johnson appears to be a favorite target of Darts, but the receiving core is just dreadful. The offensive line isn't very good. Defensively, they have a nice front seven. That defensive line is very, very talented. Abdul Carr was obviously a great pick. He's really good. Dexter Lawrence, probably the best D tackle in football. Brian Byrne, it's a very good front seven, but that secondary leaves a lot to be desired. It's not very good. Dable, I want to like Dable as a hiccup, but I just can't. I get the offensive mind. You want that with a rookie again. You don't want to fire a guy 1 year in, into a rookie quarterback. You want to fire a coach 1 year into it, 1 year into his quarterback's career. Teams do it all the time. It never works. The Bears do it all the time. The Jets do it all the time. It never works. But I mean, the guy he doesn't have a hold of the locker room. He loses the locker room every year. And that first season where they won a playoff game seems a long ways away. I mean, it's more of an organizational problem, but just also the play calling hasn't been good in 3 years. Dable's supposed to be his offensive mastermind. The more time passes, the more I think maybe Josh Allen just worked his ass off, and is just an exceptional talent, and Dable was just kind of there. It doesn't really matter who the play caller is. That it wasn't really Dable just like freaking waved his magic wand and turned this inaccurate project in Josh Allen into a superstar. I think it was more Josh Allen was kind of on his own, worked hard, and just simply got better, and turned into an amazing player. But they're going to need a regime change. Shane should probably go first, but you don't want to bring a new GM have a lame duck coach next year. It's year 4 of Dable. Fans are fed up. I think a trade is needed with the Giants. I thought some traders needed last year, but they decided to give them another year, and it did not work out. They're obviously 1-4, 27. It was Las Vegas Raiders. I also could have had them even lower. A little bit loss. I'm sure I will. This team is really, really bad. Geno Smith, no one was saying this guy was elite by any means at any point, but all right, he's a decent starter. He's about an average quarterback. He's a hell of a lot better than what they've rolled out recently with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew and the garbage the Raiders have thrown out at quarterback these last few years. Derek Carr was mediocre. It's gotten even worse these last couple of years since they let him go. But he's been really bad. He's already got 9 interceptions, most in the NFL. And Gentry, overall, he's looked great. But just the offensive line is so bad. Just not enough weapons. Jacoby Myers is pretty good, but he's not a level 1 receiver. Barris is a great player, but he's hurt now. That defense is atrocious. There are a lot of bad defenses. The Jets, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Raiders, a lot of really bad defenses in this league. Raiders are definitely one of the at least 5 or 6 worst. They're bad. I love Matt Stroud, but the rest of the defense is absolutely horrid. I'm not blaming Pete Carroll. First of all, he's a guy who's a culture builder. That's always going to take a little time. They were never going to compete here. I think I had him at 6-11 at the beginning of the year. I did not think they'd be good this year, but it's looked really, really bad because they can't stop anybody. They're turning the ball over like crazy. The roster is not good. It's a joke for the franchise, and the Raiders absolutely suck. Lost 40-6 to the Colts last week. Colts have played well. They're a pretty good team, but by 34, be that uncompetitive, I was embarrassing. At 26, I have Cincinnati Bengals. This team blows. Jamar Chase is amazing. T. Higgins is fantastic. But just without Joe Burrow, that they're nothing. You know, Jake Browning absolutely sucks. They traded for Joe Flacco, who's beyond washed. Guy's 4 years old behind not brutal offensive line. He's going to get killed. Man might have a bomb for offensive line in the league. Might even be the worst in the league. I think it's either them or Houston probably, but worst offensive line in the league. They cannot stop anybody. The defense just as bad as it was last year, if not worse. It's so bad. They're a bad football team with two great receivers. And Chase Brown, who like down the stretch second half of the year last year was a baller, has been a ghost this year. It's a bad football team. Zach Harris not a good coach. It's a bad organization. You've lost three straight. Having competitive in really either of them, you got absolutely destroyed in where was it, London or no in was it Ireland or something where they played against the Vikings. You got the brakes beat off of you the following as well by who they played 2 weeks ago. I don't remember. Who cares? And then the Lions. I mean, you lost by 13. It was a lot worse than that at one point. You kind of came back from garbage from a tiny bit. I think it was 20. It was 20-3. I think in the third quarter, one player at halftime or something. You've been completely uncompetitive these last 3 weeks. I get, whenever you lose a guy like Joe Burrow, you're going to be a worse football team. But that offense, you should be able to throw really any quarterback back there and be able to at least, hold the fort down to the point when Joe Burrow comes back, hopefully in sometime in December. You still have a shot maybe sneaking into the playoffs. And with that offense, you never know. Maybe you wave a wand, you end up winning a playoff game or two. But now, look, they even won a game at this point the rest of the way. Like, Pittsburgh isn't a great team. They're better than you are. Like, even Cleveland, I think at least beats them for one time. Even Baltimore, as bad as they are, especially if Lamar Jackson's healthy, even with all the injuries they have, they're going to beat Bengals at least once. But Bengals suck. They absolutely suck. At 25 is the Carolina Panthers. They've managed to win 2 games. Also, you shut the Falcons a couple of weeks ago. You stole one against Miami last week. But the other 3 games, you lost. It was ugly. Bryce Young, the guy isn't good. He just isn't. I don't care what anybody says. They can run the blowout. Triple Hubbard's good. I know he's hurt right now, but Rico Dowdle ran his ass off last week over 200 yards against the Dolphins. They still have enough weapons. Ted McMillan has played well. I like him a lot. But Russian receiving core is really, really bad. Defensively, they suck. Their offensive line is banged up. Dave Canales, I don't really know what to think of him. I thought last year he actually did a relatively good job. He said, I don't care how high the pick Bryce Young was. He wasn't here when I drafted him. He's not getting my job. I'm benching him. He played Amy Dalton for a few weeks. Eventually, put Bryce Young back in. He played better. But this year, Bryce has not picked up where he left off. They have not been super competitive at times. Not the worst of it. It's like the Jets where they don't compete till garbage time in the fourth quarter, or the Bengals since they lost Burrow, or the Titans at times, but just it hasn't looked great. They're at 2-3, but those team at best it's them in 7 other games. They'll probably close to 5 or 6, if not worse. They're at 25. At 24 is the Cleveland Browns. Look, they're not a good football team, but I said before, they could mess around and win a couple of games that they probably shouldn't because of how well they can run the ball and because they have a good defense. But Jerry Jeudy's really the only legit weapon you have. And Devin the Joker is a pretty good tight end, but not a whole lot to be desired with that receiving core. And after the quarterbacks, you traded by Joe Flacco, and then Dylan Gabriel's making his second career start. There's Shador BS going on. The guy's such a man-child. Can't believe they drafted that guy in the 5th round, but still, his stupid silent interview thing. They're considering promoting Bailey Zappi from their practice squad and making him this backup quarterback over Shador Sanders. Good Lord. This team is bad. It's a shame because, again, I think they have some nice pieces on defense. Myles Garrett's a freak. I like their own Quinton Judkins a lot. He's been really good. Jerry Jeudy's become a really good receiver. But just the clown show that is the organization, the quarterback debacle, the offensive line is just old. It's a shame because I think they have the coach. I think Kevin Stefanski's a very good coach, just in such a bad situation. But so they're at 24. At 23, the Houston Texans mentioned picked up 2 wins at the 3 rough losses where the offense was one of the worst in football. You beat up on a horrendous Titans team. You blow the doors off of a depleted Ravens team. Look, going in, I thought they would win the division. I think they were a great team. I thought they're just the best of the bunch in a bad division. But Combination of Jacksonville's been a lot better than we thought, and they've just been really bad. Strand overall hasn't played well. The offensive line has been a train wreck. They've been pretty good defensively, but just the offense look really rough. And Nico Collins is the only weapon. Joe Mixon's hurt, so they don't have much of a running game. That's been a big, big loss for them. Not having much of a running game. It's what was it? Parks, whatever. Woody Parks and Nick Chubb, who's cooked. Too many leg injuries have gotten to him finally. Let's have Nico Collins. Christian Kirk isn't anything special. Haken's a second round rookie. He's going to take time. Schultz is just okay to tight end. There isn't enough there offensively. 22 have the Dallas Cowboys. They're not a great team. Offensively, there is some talent. Dak has been kind of a mixed bag, as he always is. The running game's been a lot better than I thought. Devontae Williams has played very, very well. Even without CB Lamb, George Pickens has played well. Jake Ferguson's having a career year. He's been a red zone monster, which he usually's been a big red zone guy, but he's been especially good this year. They just cannot stop anybody. It was Brian Schottenheimer. I mean, I thought it was a terrible hire at the time. He's inspired that much confidence. I mean, they cannot get a stop. That's a bottom four defense in football to stop anything. They're at 22. At 21 of the Arizona Cardinals. People try to convince me like, oh, this team should be winning the NFC West. I said, no, the hell they should not. This team is not that good. Kyler Murray is the most overrated quarterback in football. As overrated as Dak Prescott is, as overrated as Tua is, Kyler is even more overrated. People think this guy's a late stop. He's a horrendous leader. He does not have that great of an arm, not accurate with the football, just does not do enough to win games. And now, they're down to their third running back. Their running back, DeMarcado, never saw her fumble the ball on a long touchdown run, because he wanted to look cool and drop the ball before the goal line. The coach damaged, he hit him on the sideline and got fined for it. Kyler and Marvin Harrison don't like each other, apparently. They can't get on the same page. I don't know why. Marvin Harrison's a generational talent coming out of Ohio State at receiver. McBride's an elite tight end. They do need another weapon, but still. And defensively, Josh Sweat coming in played well, but still, lots to be desired on defense. And not sold on Gannon as a head coach, but they're being held back by Kyler, a very mediocre quarterback, and they're as mediocre as it gets. And they're not winning their division. It's not going to happen. At 20, I have the Chicago Bears. I mean, not a whole lot to like. Ben Johnson, haven't liked what I've seen. Roma Dunjay's looked really good, second-year receiver, top 10 pick, so that's a good sign. But the defense taking a step back. Their top corner, Jalen Johnson, is hurt. Caleb Williams, a joke. Well, this is there to say. 2-2 coming out of the bye. So the dudes coming out of the bye. For now, I have them at 20th. At 19th, I have the Atlanta Falcons. They've been very inconsistent. Some weeks they look pretty good, and then you had the 30-0 loss to Carolina. Penix has looked up and down. Bijan's been Bijan. They have some nice pieces there offensively. Their pass rush. The only game they really looked good was against the Vikings. They had no offensive line, and that was before JJ McCarthy got hurt. Solomon, the defense is very good. Raheem Morris is a horrible coach. They're just a mediocre football team. At 18, I have the Baltimore Ravens. Last week, despite them being 1-3, I still put them in my top 10. This week, I dropped them a lot to 18th. I'm not putting that bottom 5 category yet. I mean, part of it is, look at the bottom 5 teams. The 5th worst team in football is the Giants. They're just so bad. But, look, I also think the talented team. They've been good for a long time. But there's so many injuries, so many guys out on defense. They have guys out on the offensive line. Lamar Jackson's not expected to play again. Derrick Henry's starting to look his age. Nothing's going right for the Ravens. The fans are hounding John Harbaugh saying to get rid of him. They cannot stop anybody to save their lives. Now they have no pass guns with Lamar gone. Obviously, you lose a two-time MVP. Team's going to suffer. Cooper Rush flat out sucks. If it's looking like a loss here, they're at 1-4. You can get the Rams this week, who are a good team. They're 1-5. I don't know how you come back from that. You need to get Lamar Jackson back next week. If you're at 1-5, you would have to go 8-3, even give yourself a chance. I don't have a schedule in front of me. I mean, they got four more of Pittsburgh and Cincy and one more of Cleveland. I mean, Pittsburgh isn't a, you know, overpoweringly good team, and Cleveland and Cincy are not good football teams, but like, especially since how feisty Cleveland is on the ground, they could steal one. They could do good the Bengals, I think, very late in the season. Potentially Joe Burrow could be healthy. Could the Bengals steal one from you? And Pittsburgh, you probably lose at least once, at least early on in the season if you play them. I don't know. It's looking pretty close to a lost year in Baltimore. At 17, it's the Denver Broncos. They've looked decent. They've had games where they've looked really bad. They've had games where they've looked a lot better, obviously. Uh, Recently had a huge win this past week over the Eagles on the road, coming all the way back. But those overalls played pretty well. J.K. Dobbins, kudos to him for staying healthy thus far. He's been running his ass off. That defense is elite. Overall, they're playing some solid football. I think the problem with the Broncos going into the year, there were some people who thought this team was going to take a huge step forward, win like 11 games, and be a real contender. I never thought that, but I did think they could do what they did last year. 9-8 could sneak into the playoffs. They're a decent team. They're about what I thought they would be. At 16, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Carson Wentz has played very well, actually, stepping in for an injured JJ McCarthy. JJ McCarthy also looked really bad in those two games. Obviously, a lot of pieces offensively. Overall, you have a solid defense. Kevin O'Connell is a very good coach, but the offensive line is a problem. It's really, really bad. I might encourage them to trade for an offensive lineman. And then, yeah, you may have a quarterback conundrum when McCarthy comes back probably next week. Do you go back to him or do you keep in Carson Wentz? I don't know. I think Aaron Jones is hurt now. See if Jordan Mason's starting. So he's a good fill-in back. But you got to keep these guys upright. So I would go out there and try and find an offensive lineman. Uh, Maybe a couple of Jets. I think John Simpson, who's a good offensive guard, is going to be a free agent of the year. Maybe Jets will send you him. Do something because the offensive line's very, very bad. And they got to put the Packers twice with Micah Parsons in that pass rush. You still got to put the Lions twice with Aiden Hutchinson and company. 4 games of those two teams. It's gonna be tough, especially if you either have Carson Wentz or a rookie quarterback, basically, and McCarthy back there. So Vikings are 16. 15 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. 3-1, now they're coming out of the bye. Rodgers has played okay. They've had a relatively easy schedule. They don't have much of a running game there. Defensively, I think there are a bunch of holes on that defense. However, they still have TJ Watt, who's obviously a beast. Metcalf has played well. They do the same thing every year. They come out, it's like, oh my God, how are they 8-3 or something? Tomlin's a wizard. And then they collapse them on the stretch and get their door beat off in the first round. It doesn't look like that's going to happen again. But they're at 15 for now. At 14 out the Kansas City Chiefs. They are 2-3, so I could have put them, you could argue, a lot lower. But look, they still have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and company. They have looked off. Mahomes has made a lot of bad mistakes this year that usually just doesn't make. People are starting to go on Andy Reid, Chiefs fans, for the play calling. I believe Matt Nagy a little more, but no, just Kelsey isn't the same player, obviously. Now he's getting married to the biggest pop star in the world. So I'm not sure he even cares anymore. But it doesn't help. They have no running game. Isaiah Pacheco has been absolutely terrible. They have no running game. Mahomes is their leading rusher right now through 5 games. Obviously, no Rashee Rice. Still from the suspension that he does come back next week. And defensively, they have not looked the same. Chris Jones just looks like he doesn't want to be there half the time. They've not been the same team defensively, and they just haven't look like the Chiefs. And they have a tough game against the Lions in prime time this week. You lose out, you're 2-4. Granted, the Chargers are beat up. That's not the same thing that you saw in week 1, probably. The Raiders suck, and Denver is good, not great. So they have that going for them, but they have not looked like the Chiefs so far. At 13, I have New England Patriots. I want the Patriots lower. I can't stand them, but they've looked good. That week 1 loss was tough to the Raiders. It was a bad loss. Other than that, they've played good football. You've won 3 or 4. Drake May has looked really good. The running game's kind of been on and off. Ramondre Stevenson's been Ramondre Stevenson. One moment he can't hold on to the football, and the next moment he's scoring a big touchdown for them. And now Gibson's her hope opens the door for Trevion Henderson, who I think is a very talented rookie running back. They took him a second round. When he's played, he's looked good. Just hasn't gotten a lot of playing time. Stephon Diggs has been playing well. Defensively, they've looked really good. I know the first couple of games they were missing Christian Gonzalez. Getting him back has been a huge help. Those pieces he brought on the front seven like Milton Williams and Harold Landry. Robert Spillane really paid dividends and was having a real true difference maker coaching you in Mike Vrabel, a true culture setter and a true good football coach. You can definitely see a large difference between this year and last year in the New England Patriots. 12, the Seattle Seahawks. I think they've overall looked really good. They're at 3-2, tough, loss in the shootout to Tampa last week, but I think they are a very good team. Sam Darnold overall has played well. Kudos to him for getting, taking advantage of getting a second chance after getting set up to fail with the Jets and with the Carolina Panthers. That's overall a good running game. Kenneth Walker and Jack Charbonnet else. You never kind of know who's going to be the lead back, I guess, for fantasy purposes, but they've kind of rode the hot hand thus far. So far, it's worked out pretty well. JSN's played really well. Defense gave up 30 to Tampa last week. It's also a very elite offense. Overall, I think they've played pretty well. I like Mike McDonald. That's a good team. They're at 12. At 11, I have the Colts. I'm not so some people saying the Colts are a legit contender and Daniel Jones is an MVP candidate. I think it's a little ludicrous, but I don't think they're gonna win 2 games the rest of the year. Yeah, I don't think this team is a contender. However, that division is so bad, there's a good chance they could kind of crawl to 9-8 and still win the division. Once Houston snaps out of it, not come, and see what happens with Jacksonville. But Daniel Jones overall has played well. Jonathan Taylor's ran his ass off. They look good defensively. They have not played a very hard schedule thus far. But the Colts, they're 3-1. They look good. Now coming off a bye, we'll see what they do. Top 10 at 10 and Washington Commanders. Overall, they've played well. They're at 3-2. Didn't have Jane Daniels for 2 games. Now he's back. I do think Tyler McClellan will be back relatively soon. I don't think it's like a crazy season-ending injury or anything like that. Deebo Samuel looked really good last week. They've looked kind of defensively, kind of like they did last year. But Krosky Merritt's looked really good. Their running game has been what's kind of kept them in a lot of these games. With all the injuries I thought they've had with Daniels and Terry McLaurin. He's looked really good. There's a reason that they by having just him and an often injured Austin Eckler, he gets hurt again. They saw Brian Robinson was like, we'll just dump him all to the Niners because they knew this kid Krosky Merritt was going to be something else, and he's played very, very well. At 9, they have the Chargers. These last 2 weeks have not looked good. There's so many injuries. They have injuries on the offensive line, injuries on defense. Now Mayor Hanson, your star rookie running back, is hurt. As a result, Herbert hasn't played as well these last 2 games. But look, he's a really good quarterback. You still have a nice, I think, a decent receiving core with Lab McConkey. Quentin Johnston's like as good as he's ever looked by a long shot. Still a good defense. Jim Harbaugh's a great coach. I still think they'll be okay, but right now a lot of injuries has caused some struggles these last 2 weeks. At 8, I have a Jacksonville Jaguars. They're playing really well, but defensively still leaves a little bit to be desired. I mentioned they make the trade, swapping Campbell for Greg Newsome at corner. Trevor Lawrence, the bad's been pretty bad. He's had some bad turnovers, but the good's been really good. You saw he made some big plays last week. They've run the football really well. Travis Etienne's look great. It's weird, Brian Thomas Jr., up until last week was kind of a ghost. Played well last week. Big catch down the stretch. Travis Thomas has been a ghost, but kudos to Liam Cohen. He's done a great job. Had him at 4-1. Huge win over the Chiefs in primetime last week. 7, lost to the Rams. Overall, I think they've looked good. Tough loss to the Niners last week. That defense hasn't looked good, but Stafford, even at 37-38, can still sling it. Puka Nakua's been a dog. Dante Adams still really good. Kyron got to work on the ball security, but he's been very productive for them. Still a very good team. I picked them to come out of the West. At 6 is the Niners. Play all their injuries. With Brock Purdy's missed a bunch of games. Pretty much their whole receiving core has been hurt. Ricky Pearson was hurt. Juwan Jang is hurt. Still no Brandon Ayuk. Kill's been hurt. Nick Bosa, your really only legit pass rusher, is now out for the year for torn ACL, so a ton of injuries, but you're still playing well, winning games. Mac Jones has played great when he's gone in there. This is why Kyle Shanahan wanted him in 2021. Maybe he was right after all. That guy's a very good coach. Obviously, he's a perennial playoff choker. Who happens when he gets to the playoffs? But they're at 4-1 right now. Big win over the Rams in primetime this past week. Top five. Number five, I have a Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They look really good. Right now, Baker Mayfield is my MVP. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield, is almost same level as Josh Allen. I do think he's, a tier below. We know he has played well these last couple years for the Bucs. I don't expect that to change, to stay the same in about a month, but he is bowling right now, even with injuries. Bucky Irving is hurt. He's probably gonna miss a second straight game. You only recently got Chris Godwin back. Mike Evans is hurt right now. You have injuries on the offensive line. They did just get back an all-pro left tackle in Wirfs. They can't get a ton of stops, but offensively, maybe the best in the league. Baker Mayfield's playing great. Rashad White stepped in nicely last week for Bucky Irving. Like I mentioned, Chris Godwin got back, and then Emeka Egbuka. I like him coming out, but that guy has been a dog. He's looked fantastic. He's out the rookie of the year right now for sure. They're playing some really good football. Baker's been very clutch. At four, it's the Detroit Lions. They're a great football team. Doesn't matter that the cool number is left as of right now. Still, doing crazy explosive plays. Defensively, they've looked very good. Injuries starting to pile up a little bit now, like they seem to always do for some reason. Terrell Arnold's got a shoulder problem. They were first round corner last year. So he might miss a lot of time. But Aiden Hutchinson has looked great coming off the injury. The pass rush has looked really good. And, still very explosive on offense, playing well. At three of the Green Bay Packers, those first 2 weeks, they looked like the best team in football. Then you blow that game to the Browns, and then you tie the Cowboys. Game you should have won. But coming out of the bye, that's an elite team. The only real true injury we have right now is Jaden Reed at the receiver position. But, Josh Jacobs has looked great. Overall has played well besides the Cleveland game. Defensively, they look great outside of the Dallas game. They do have a very good offense over there. Well, they're at 3. At 2 is the Eagles. Pretty much every team has a flaw right now. So it's hard to, pick who the true front runner is. Eagles, you're at 4-1. E.J. Brown is, obviously isn't happy right now. Hurts, look, he hasn't played bad. The passing guys don't look good, but he's 1-4-5. They gotta start throwing the ball a little better though. Has to happen. I know that defense is great. They got the offensive line. Obviously, with Saquon at running back, you're going to want to run the football, obviously, but they gotta start throwing the ball better. They're still an elite team, defending champs. I mean, last week was their first loss in like almost a calendar year. And while I think the Buffalo Bills are the best team in football, despite losing to the Patriots last week, Josh Allen is amazing. James Cook has looked great. Again, they have some flaws. The receiving core isn't great. Defensively, they're not great. McDermott's just an okay coach, but only if Josh Allen, they'll be fine. Right now, they are at number 1. That's all I got for you guys today. Till next time, so long. Have a great day.